Welcome back. Merck has now applied for emergency use authorization from the FDA for its new antiviral COVID-19 pill. Here to put things into context is Rhode Island health expert Dr. Pyle Coley. Good morning, Dr. Coley. Thanks for joining me.
Good morning.
So my first question, this new pill, is it in lieu of the vaccine?
This is a really important question, Natasha, and absolutely not. This is an adjunct to the vaccine. It's another tool in our toolbox. Vaccine is for prevention. This is for treatment. So if you happen to get COVID, whether you're vaccinated or not, this is when you would reach for this pill.
Okay, and how exactly does it work?
Yeah, so it's sort of like an antibiotic. So antibiotics kill the bacterial infection that you have. This is an antiviral. So what it does is it actually targets viral replication. So if you do get infected with the virus, it shuts down the machinery that would allow the virus to make copies of itself. So it's really important to give early in the course of the infection because that's when the virus is really making copies of itself.
So now the drug company is waiting for emergency use authorization. How did this pill perform in the clinical trials?
Extremely well. In fact, the clinical trial was stopped early because it was doing so well, so it was considered unethical to continue. So it cut hospitalizations by half, by 50%. And no person who got the pill actually ended up dying. Now, the caveat to this is that the people that were selected to be in the clinical trial were those that had mild to moderate illness, those that had at least one risk factor, so somebody who might be at risk for progression to severe disease. And interestingly, the clinical trial was done in October of last year before we had the vaccines. So by definition, they were unvaccinated. So we don't yet know how it performs in vaccinated people, and that's going to be a question for the FDA to really think about.
Yeah, that's an interesting point there. My other question too is, who would be eligible to get this?
Yeah, so it wouldn't be necessarily for every single person. It could be at some point down the line, but I think initially it would be for those people that are at high risk for progression because they have illness. And up until now, Natasha, it was so frustrating. Patients would call me. My patients have heart disease. They would call and say, Dr. Coley, I have COVID. And you just wait it out. You just say, well, we have to see what the virus does and then decide, if you're going to end up in the hospital. Some select people could get those antibodies, but those are injection medications. Now we've got this pill, just like Tamiflu or just like the other pills out there, where we can prescribe something to those patients.
Right. And that leads me to this question, generally speaking, why is this pill such a big deal?
I think it's one of the most important things in terms of, coming at this virus with every direction, preventing infection. And then if we have our lives back to normal and some of us get those breakthrough infections, then being able to keep people out of the hospital, which this has shown to do. But I think it's important, again, to emphasize the point that it's not a replacement for the vaccine. It's not performing as well as the vaccine. So it's really thought to be an adjunct or an add-on on top of the vaccine if that doesn't work.
An extra tool.
That's right.
In the fight. All right, Dr. Coley, thank you as always.